My wife had a miscarriage. Later, I found out she aborted our baby. I can't see our relationship as the same as before. We both wanted to have children, and after we got married, we decided to first buy a house and get things in order financially before having children. Last year, we both mutually agreed that we were in the right place to try for a child. In fact, it was my wife who put the idea forward. A little over 8 months ago, my wife found out she was 6 weeks pregnant with our first child. I was elated. I had always wanted to be a father, and it seemed like something I never thought was possible was coming true. My wife and I began buying parenting books, planning a nursery, and just doing all the stuff first-time parents do. I had never been happier at this moment. Several weeks later, I had to fly out of the country for a work conference. I was gone for about 8 days. While I was abroad, my wife called. She was crying and told me she had a miscarriage. She was 18 weeks pregnant at this point. I flew back home immediately and told work that I had a family emergency. I was devastated by the news, but I never properly mourned, as I felt I had to be emotionally strong for my wife, who was a wreck. This was a tough period for both of us, but I thought we had come out stronger as a couple. I knew I had to give my wife some time and space before we could approach the subject again, especially with this being, what I thought, her first miscarriage. However, a week ago, a friend of my wife called and told me she had something important to tell me. Apparently, my wife had scheduled an abortion while I was away at a conference. My wife's reasoning was that she wasn't ready to be a parent. My wife also said she didn't want me to know about the abortion because I was so excited to be a parent, and she didn't want to hurt me. At first, I didn't believe this to be true, but after confronting my wife, she told me that yes, she had in fact aborted our child. I'm in shock right now. I'm hurt, angry, and upset. I just don't understand why she didn't just speak to me about it. Maybe we could have talked this through, but right now I'm so mad that she went behind my back and led me to believe she lost our child. I understand that my wife is the one carrying the child and at the end has the right to make any decision she wants. But why lie about the whole situation? I don't know whether to carry on with the relationship or not. I love my wife, but this is a huge betrayal to me, and I can't even look at her right now. She's currently crying and begging me to forgive her. I've just gone down to the spare bedroom and locked myself inside. Please, someone just tell me what to do. Edit. I did not expect this post to blow up like this. My emotions are all over the place, and I'm a mess right now. But once everything is sorted out, I will try to update you on the situation. Thank you for your support. Update. First of all, thank you to those of you who left kind comments and messages. I tried to read as many as I could, but there were a lot. I did not expect the post to blow up the way it did. I mainly made it as a way to vent. I just had to tell someone what I discovered, and who better to tell than random internet strangers. Before I get into the whole thing, I would like to clarify a few points. My wife and I are not from the USA, and where we live not staying for obvious reasons. An abortion can be carried out up to 24 weeks into pregnancy. I don't want this post to be too long, so I will sum up this whole mess. Many suggested that my wife was having an affair, and my thoughts were heading in that direction. However, that is not the case. Once I gathered my thoughts together, I finally got some proper answers from my wife. Around 12-13 weeks of pregnancy, my wife had several screenings and diagnostic tests done CVS, and it came back that our child had Down syndrome. One thing we stupidly avoided was talking about the chance that our child had Down syndrome or any other genetic abnormality. Some backstory is that I have an uncle who also has Down syndrome. While there are certain setbacks he has faced, he is independent and lives a relatively normal life. Growing up, whenever I was with him, I witnessed the verbal awes and hate he got for something beyond his control. Yet he managed to disregard the hate and live an incredible life. He also advocates on behalf of others with DS, especially in regards to the fact that they can have fulfilling lives. Anyway, I also share the same thoughts as my uncle and believe that a child with DS is not worth less than a normal baby. My wife and I did not exactly share the same sentiment. As much as she wanted a baby, her words were that she did not want to have a disabled child that wouldn't have the same quality of life as a normal child. She decided to have an abortion because she felt it was the best decision for her, as she ultimately did not want to raise a DS child. She told me she lied about the abortion and said it was a miscarriage because she knew how much hurt I would feel if I knew the truth, and due to her own guilt she felt. She also thought it would be easier for me to move on and try for another child. She said she was truly devastated after her procedure because she was mourning the loss of her child. I'm still severely hurt and betrayed by the fact that she lied to me, and I'm not sure where our relationship currently stands. I'm currently staying with my parents as I need some space. I'm planning on seeing a therapist before I make a final decision on our relationship. My thoughts are a mess, and I just feel so depressed. I lost so much, and my heart just feels empty. Relevant comment. I agree with you that communication was lacking during this time. I went with her for her first appointment, but for the rest, she went by herself. During this time, my workload at my job increased, so I was incredibly busy. However, for the other appointments she had, her mother went with her, and I would always call right after to find out how it went. She would share the general updates and advice her doctor gave her. But since this was my first child, I was unaware of what actually took place during these appointments, and I should have educated myself more. Second story. OP found lumps in her breast. Hi everyone. I'm mostly looking for reassurance, as I am already working with doctors. I am just waiting to get answers and a bit anxious in the meantime. AITA. I managed to get a biopsy appointment for tomorrow instead. So less wait, hopefully less stress. Background. I'm a 38-year-old cis woman. I have a family history of breast cancer. My grandma on my dad's side passed away of it before I was born. But I'm not exactly sure how old she was fairly young. My cousin on my mom's side recently had breast cancer in her 40s. I'm on a hormonal IUD and haven't had a period in 8 years from it. I have no history of anything weird with my breasts, though I am very large-breasted, if that makes a difference. I have Sjogren's and antisynthetase syndrome, a connective tissue disease that also gives me interstitial lung disease. Both are autoimmune disorders, but I am currently not on any treatment as I was just diagnosed. They come with an increased risk of lymphoma. I also had my COVID vaccine a couple weeks ago, and read that it can cause a reaction that is mistaken for cancer on mammograms. But I believe that's in the lymph nodes. This is the actual breast. Current situation. I noticed a very obvious lump on my breast on Sunday. I feel like I would have noticed it before had it been there longer. I wash my breasts with my own hands to check for anything odd every time I shower, pretty much. I was able to see my doctor on Monday. She sent me for an ultrasound, which I had on Wednesday. They took me straight in for a mammogram after that, even though it wasn't scheduled. They've scheduled a biopsy for May 3rd, but I'm freaking out while I wait and Googling everything, often leaving me feeling certain it's cancer based on the type of lump it is. But it literally popped up overnight, so that has me questioning everything. I've had no other symptoms or issues, nipple issues or discharge. I guess I'm mostly looking for other possibilities, just so I'm not as scared in the meantime. I've heard that most lumps that get biopsies aren't cancer, but from the sounds of it, these aren't cysts and likely not fibroids. What else could it be? If it is cancer, could it spread quickly while I'm waiting to get the biopsy and results? AITA. Because of my other conditions, I had a PET scan in December and chest CT scans every 6 months for the last year, the last one about a month ago. There is no sign of any cancer as far as I know, though I know that these tests aren't typically for such things. TLDR. I have a lump in my breast that's been looked at via ultrasound and mammogram. It's described as dense, though the ultrasound mentioned a liquid center with very irregular edges and finely spiculated. It is close to the skin, though not visible, but easy to feel. It doesn't feel movable, it's very firm. Everything online says it's most likely malignant if it has those properties. What else could it be? Update. When should I tell people about possible cancer? Hi everyone. I'm going through a breast cancer scare at the moment. I just had a biopsy, and will find out the results in a week. But I'll need surgery regardless of the results, and might not know everything until they can examine the lump after surgery. I'm currently living overseas with my family, but I'm very close to them. I'm not sure when I should tell them. My husband made a good point that I should wait until I have the biopsy results, so that I can give them a more definitive answer, and save them the stress of not knowing. I can see that point, but I think back to when my mom had cancer. She didn't tell me until after she got a diagnosis. It seemed to come out of nowhere, and I was not prepared for it. She admits that she doesn't like to tell me things that will stress me out or worry me. But that's given me more anxiety, honestly, because I want to know what's going on with her. I fear there are things she's not telling me just to save my feelings, and they've actually hurt or upset me in the past. But I am a lot like my mom. I don't like worrying people and wouldn't tell a soul if I could get away with it. I just know how it makes me feel to be kept out of the loop when loved ones are going through something. So what do you think? Wait a week. It's only a week, and save them the stress of waiting for the results with me. Or let them in and prepare them for the chance it could be cancer, rather than dropping it on them after suspecting it for a few weeks. Response to OP by BVO 120. I recently had a similar health situation, and a lot of other issues that actually led me to start therapy, even though I and most people I know consider myself to be quite mentally resilient. It was just too much all at once, and therapy helped me realize that that is okay. and I'm not broken or weak for being overwhelmed by it. My therapist and I are working on improving my vulnerability skills. I'm terrible at it. I can easily be honest and an open book with people, but I stink at being vulnerable in front of them, even my own husband. My therapist says that while it is certainly scary and hard, we have to give people the opportunity to respond when we're feeling scared, overwhelmed, sad, angry, weak, or any negative emotion. When we don't give people that opportunity, we're signaling that we don't trust them with our difficult feelings, and that leads to them feeling held at arm's length and disconnected or detached from us. And that isn't much incentive to keep being friends. I wound up with a small circle of people that I told every detail about my health issue as soon as I knew it, and another larger circle of people that I told more general, less detailed things to, often after I had had time to process it and or well after it had happened. My smaller circle, many of whom live out of state, wound up giving me words of encouragement, sending small gifts, making me laugh, helping me shift my perspective to a more positive place, and my mill making dinner for me and my husband while I recovered from surgery. All because they knew exactly what I was going through. My wider circle of friends, who didn't have all the details, didn't really do anything at all except respond to texts. It is actually a sign of personal strength to be able to be vulnerable in front of those we care for. You don't have to have an answer to every question before you tell your support network about what you're going through. It is okay to say, "I don't know, I didn't think to ask," or "I'm still waiting to find out." Asking for help and encouragement is not a burden for your friends. It's giving them a chance to be friends. I'm still learning this for myself. Good luck to you. Update. Lump that might be cancer. I posted a couple months ago about a lump in my breast that appeared cancerous, and I was hoping it wasn't cancer. Well, it's confirmed. It is cancer. I was diagnosed pretty quickly and have already had surgery, lumpectomy with sentinel node biopsy. Chemo was originally not part of my treatment plan because we caught it early before it went into the nodes, and it was small. But after genome testing, it was discovered that it's a pretty aggressive cancer that's a little more likely to come back. So I'll be starting chemo soon, after a round of embryo freezing since my husband and I would like to try for a baby in the future. It's very important to me. And overall, my prognosis is very good, low risk of coming back. I'm also posting this not to scare people, but for two reasons. One, don't put off getting lumps checked out. I went right away, and we caught it early. Had I waited, the cancer was likely preparing to spread, and my prognosis might not be as good or my treatment would have been more aggressive. And two, the first few weeks after diagnosis were hard because I was terrified. But as I met with my doctors, I found out that many breast cancers are treatable or even curable. Armed with a treatment plan, I felt a lot better. So just know, if you're going through this, it does get easier. And if you're young like me, there are options for fertility preservation. There's a shot you can get to help save your ovaries plus egg embryo freezing. Not everyone needs chemo either, so there's that too. My exact cancer is hormone positive. It responds to hormones, and HER2 negative, a type of cancer that can be more aggressive. I'll have a short round of TC chemotherapy, Taxol and Cytoxan, followed by 4 weeks of radiation. I'll be on hormone blockers for 5-10 years, but I'm allowed to pause them in order to have a baby, and the doctors believe it's safe for me to do that. My oncologist says I'm still at low risk of recurrence, and my risk of it coming back after chemo is less than 10%. Survival rates are very high in my case, and my doctors are confident I'll be just fine. I'm feeling better about my odds and my future now too. Update. Anyone done egg retrieval with local only? Hi there. I'm having egg retrieval for embryo freezing tomorrow, and they are only doing a local anesthetic, which scares me. Local doesn't seem to work on me. I had a very traumatic experience last week with getting a chemo port put in under local only, and I could feel everything, and it went very badly all around, which makes me extra nervous. This procedure does sound less scary than that, but everything I read online says that it's usually done under sedation. They told me there's no time for me to meet with an anesthesiologist, so there's no sedation for me. I had requested it from day one, but I guess they forgot. I have serious medical trauma. They are giving me gas to calm my nerves. They say most women do local only, but that's not what I'm finding online. I think it's a cultural thing. I'm in France, and it feels like they don't use sedation as often as in the US. It's supposed to be very quick, right? Just thin needles. I've read that it feels like a blood draw and then suction. I guess what I'm asking is, am I freaking out over nothing? Update. Egg retrieval with only local anesthesia. So I'm not sure how many people saw my question about egg retrieval under local anesthesia. I didn't get any answers here. It doesn't seem that common, which is why I figured I'd update on my experience in case anyone else has the same question down the line. Honestly, it was easy. My anxiety was the worst thing about it. Prior to the procedure, a woman was crying inside the room, and I almost left. I'm glad I didn't. She was having a bad reaction to the gas, a rare occurrence, and I was just unlucky enough to hear it. She was fine though, just panicky from the gas. They gave me some pre-meds. They don't give everyone because I was so scared. It was Tylenol, tramadol, and a strong anti-inflammatory, and that really seemed to help. I thought the needle for the anesthetic might hurt a lot, but it didn't. I felt it. It was a pinch, but it wasn't that bad. I used the gas too at times, and it did help. I didn't feel them poke into my ovaries at all. When they told me they'd done it, I was surprised. There was a little cramping twice, but it wasn't worse than a menstrual cramp, and was over quickly just when they'd push against the side of the ovary or something. I didn't feel much pressure, maybe a little. My left ovary is lower and positioned poorly, so that hurt a bit, just trying to get it into place. But the gas helped that pain immediately. Due to medical trauma recently, I'm not good with any pain at the moment, and I still found it very easy and non-traumatic once I was no longer anxious. Regular IUD insertions for me hurt 10 times worse than this. I also had an IUD placed during it since I'm starting chemotherapy and can't get pregnant during it. And they couldn't promise me that wouldn't hurt. I've had very painful IUD insertions in the past due to a cervix that's tight. I asked when they were going to actually insert it, and they said, "It's done actually," and that was it. I was so surprised at how easy it was. I walked out of there and got dressed pretty quickly. I had to hang out there for about an hour, eat, drink, and use the bathroom before I could leave. I started having some cramping in the waiting room, but they gave me something for that, and I was okay. It wasn't severe. It's the next day, and honestly, I hardly have any cramping and no bleeding. If I had to do it again, I would most likely stick with locals. The nurses and the doctor were all so great. They had fun music playing. They were upbeat and cheerful, but also empathetic and kind. They let me watch as they harvested the eggs, and it was neat. And in the end, they were able to get far more than we expected. Because of my age, they were expecting 7-8 total. They managed to get 19, and 16 were mature. This gives me so much hope as I start chemo. I also got a shot called Zoladex that will help save my ovaries during chemo. The needle is huge, so it scared me, but that wasn't so bad either. All in all, it was not as traumatic as I feared. Thank you for watching the video.